May I know Shukur sir is available there? I think he's not in between. Is in a he's
Anuj,
traveling actually.
yeah. Anuj, you can start. It's
Yeah,
recording
you
start.
can start.
Okay, I'll get on. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a very, very brief introduction to academic writing. And by very brief introduction, I would just tell you most of the problems that people have when they start off with academic writing. And I would give you some tips and tricks on how to tackle the initial problems that you face. And I will give you a short guided practice as well. I assure you towards the end, it is going to be fun. In the beginning, I would just give you, it would just be me talking to you. But towards the end, it is going to be interactive. So I request all of you to have a pen and paper with you so that you don't have to rush when the activity starts. Okay. So when I spoke to the organizers, and I'm sure I think they circulated a Google form around asking how many of you had experience in publication and how many of you face writer's block. There were a couple of other questions too, but these two questions were important for me in framing my talk for you. So I realized that most of the people, almost 53%, 53.6% of the people who registered for this program do face a writer's block. Okay. And then the next question was, how many of you have published in Scopus Index journals? And again, majority of you have not published. So I'm assuming that those of you who have published or who do not face writer's block have published but not in Scopus Index journal. So the talk that I'm going to give today is I'm going to specifically focus on Scopus Index journals, how to get your article published there. And I'm going to give you a very, very ethical method on how to chisel your skill so that you can become a better academician, okay, from my experience. Now, the first thing that we encounter when we talk about academic writing, and I'm sure when most of you, the reason behind most of you registering for a program like this is somewhere you had this thought that academic writing is inaccessible. Now, why is it inaccessible? As researchers, we have to ask this question, why? Now, the first four things that came to my mind when I started pondering over this question was, one is the language of fear. Second is an obsession with complexity, theory, and abstraction. Third is failure to address our authenticity. And fourth is groping in the dark. Now, what exactly is this language of fear? I remember when I started off as a research scholar, and when I was told at that time, my teacher, that I need to look at publications, I need to focus on publication, because if I need to be recognized in the academic community, it's not enough that I just have a degree in my hand. It is important that I publish. I make my name important. I mean, well known in the community. So then when I started off with academic writing, I thought, okay, I will look at examples. I will look at samples. I will download papers and see how they are written. And then I will start off from there. And then I realized that most of the people, journals and articles that I downloaded, they have spoken about a lot of complex ideas. And somewhere at the beginning stage, I felt that I was incompetent. Okay, I felt that I have not reached that level yet where I can write an article. Right. I felt that I was just a very small child and I shouldn't be doing this at this stage. That was a misconception that I had. And at that time, I wish there was somebody to tell me that it was unreasonable to have that harbor that fear in me. Okay. So the first thing when I realized was, okay, this is something that smart people do. And I have to read a lot. I have to do a lot of things. I need to accomplish a lot just to write one article. Okay. The second thing was what I did was I looked at the word count. And I'm sure like most of the graduate students will also do the same thing. When you are given a term paper or an assignment, the first question that you would ask your teacher was, how many words should I write? How many pages should I write? This, the question of how many pages should I write actually stems from this fear that we have, that this is something that we can't achieve. So when I started writing, I realized that I wrote everything that I wanted to communicate in one page, and I had written only 500 pages. But most of the articles, journals expect 8,000 words to 10,000 words. Some of the journals expect 10,000 words, Scopus Index. Some of the journals even specify maximum 25 pages. So it was very confounding for me. How do I communicate my ideas? What do I write for 25 pages? And how do I write it in a very structured manner so that it doesn't seem repetitive? it is new, but it is also following a certain track. So this fear of not knowing what to do, of thinking that this is something that smart people do, creates a panic for people who are starting to write, or for people who want to achieve a publication or obtain a publication as Scopus Index Journal. That is why I feel that somewhere academic writing can be equated at some level to a language of fear as well. The second thing is this obsession with complexity, theory, and abstraction. Because I feel most of the people assume that academic writing should be equated with infusing a lot of theory into your writing. You select 10 scholars, 10 theorists, squeeze all the theories into the page, and then it becomes academic. That's a misconception that we have, but we assume that's, I don't know from where that conception comes, these assumptions come, but that is always there in students, that once your language becomes very, very complex, or once you sort of create or that complexity in your writing, it immediately becomes academic writing. It immediately becomes academic language. And somewhere people also think that it has to be very abstract, in a way, like, philosophical, you have to be very abstract and talk about, a lot of very strange ideas, abstract ideas, so that, you might look smart, or you might appear that you're very scholarly. That they think that by writing a very complex language, you will seem like a smart person. That again is a misconception that we have. The third thing is very, very important, is a failure to address our authenticity. Most of the scholars that we have been trained to refer to Western theorists, and somewhere because of this colonized mentality that we still harbor, we think that our Indian ideas are not good enough. Okay, we are not that great. Our ideas are not that smart enough to be communicated to the world. What if it is not relevant? What if the Western people finds us to be stupid? So somewhere we think that our ideas are not authentic enough, which gives us that kind of fear to publish. Okay, we think we are not authentic, we think we are not relevant. Now, the fourth one is groping in the dark. Basically, it means you don't know which direction to go, where to start, how to create a mind map, how to create a framework. Should I start writing with the introduction? Should I start with the results section? Should I start with the data analysis? Should I start with the conclusion? How do I start? You don't know. People actually do not get training on academic writing, on how to sit and publish. And this is why I'm here right now, to actually tell you that once we sort of take away these assumptions, these assumptions that we have in our mind, once we erase them from our mentality, we will be able to achieve our goal. Okay, it's very, very simple. Once you're able to tackle these things, we will immediately reach a better position, which we will be able to start at least the first section of our academic paper that we want to publish. Okay, now what basically is academic writing? By academic writing, it simply means that you want to communicate an idea or a research data or an information to an academic community in a clear and scientific manner. By clarity, I mean the language and the style, and scientific manner, I mean methodology and methods that you would be using. If you read some of the research methodology books, I think you will get a very brief idea on what research methodology is. But by style and language is something that you cultivate. Okay. Now, even though we are giving you this session on academic writing, it is very important that I tell you that this is a skill that we're trying to impart. And it is not like a 2 minutes Maggie that I give you some tips and tricks now. Tomorrow onwards, you would be able to write an excellent or fantastic article and get your article published. It doesn't happen that way. If you're learning to paint, you would definitely want to go to an expert, a painter, learn the brush strokes. You want to learn the techniques. You need to buy the tools. You need to buy the canvas and paint and brush. Start painting. You would make very horrible paintings in the beginning, but it would take time. Similarly, since writing is a skill, it is definitely going to take time. So you need to be patient with yourself. So even though I'm giving you this, I need to also tell you that I can give you a roadmap, but it is your duty to sit and be committed to yourself, and to be committed to yourself as a scholar that you will get better at this and you will definitely be able to develop the skill. and you should also remember that this skill is achievable. It's not just for other people or just for smart people. Anybody who has an excellent idea and who thinks it's groundbreaking should communicate their particular idea to the world, no matter from which part of or which corner of the world they come from. They have to publish it and make it available to the community, right? So you have to develop the skill of writing and make sure that any person, not just scholars, even a layman who's not even related to your field, even when he reads your paper, he should be able to understand what you're trying to communicate. That is the magic of academic writing. Okay. Now, the process of academic writing, I would share in the next 2-3 slides, I would be discussing 5 elements that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about academic writing, when you're talking about the writing process. Okay. Now, the first thing is the structure. And by structure, I'm going to talk about an old school method. Now, what is this old school method? By the old school method, I am talking about using your pen and paper, using a book when you are starting to write your research article. And this is from the point of writing a research article, not a book review or a thesis. The lecture that I'm going to give you right now is about writing a research article. Okay, you can use it for other purposes as well. But when you're writing a research article, the first thing that you need to have with you is a book and a pen. Okay, and you should not underestimate the power of writing in a book and pen. With a book, with a pen on your book. The first thing, when you start off with writing a research article, you have to be very clear of what your research question is. Okay, whatever the research question is, you have to write it down in your book. Fine. Write it in one simple sentence what your question is. That will sort of, give you the boost or the energy to write that or, convert that into a soft copy, which is on your laptop, right? After you write your research question, you need to move on to the methodology section. What methods did you find, or what method did you employ to sort of probe into your research question? Whatever the research methodology you used, you write it down again in one single sentence. The next part is the finding. What is your finding? Write it down in one single sentence. This is the first thing that you need to have in your book. It is like a journal that you would carry when you, throughout that one research article period, to get that paper published. Throughout that period, you will carry a book with you. And in that book, the first page will have these 3 components. The first is your research question. The next would be your method and the methodology. And the third is your finding. And you have to write that down in full, complete sentences. After that, you would design the paper. Now, by designing the paper, you would decide in how many paragraphs or how many themes would I want to decide in, how many themes would I want to have in one particular section. For instance, most of the research articles, if you see the basic structure of a research article is, you will have the introduction, and then you have the review of literature. Then you will talk about the results or the data that you have. Then you have an analysis of the discussion session, and then you have the conclusion. Okay, this is a basic thing in social sciences. This is a basic structure that you follow. Okay, so for instance, if you're talking about the review of literature, what are the themes that I'm going to discuss in that? Okay, if I have, for instance, 4 themes that I want to discuss within the review of literature, you will invariably have 4 different paragraphs in your review of literature section. So in the review of literature section, under that particular paragraph, under that particular theme, what are the authors that I would be mentioning? What are the evidences that I would be giving? You have to write it down in your book. Okay, so as and when you start reading your article, this writing process or this journal should also be, this process of writing your inputs into your journal should also be very active. So these are the papers that I would include. You need not write the full details of the paper, the publication, all the details, no? You need not write. You can just simply write the name of the author. That's enough. But with the name of the author, you will realize that this author, the information that this author has given in that particular article should go in this paragraph of this section. You get what I'm saying? So then when you go on to the next paragraph, what are the authors that you want to mention? Then again, when you go to the discussion section, what are the things or what are the themes that you want to communicate? What are the ideas that you want to communicate? What are the observations that you made? So if there are like 5 observations, and if you want to discuss those 5 observations in detail, then you will have 5 paragraphs, right? In the 5 paragraphs, what are the things that you want to mention? You write that down. You put like, lines across and write the ideas. So as and when you finish writing, the typing that into your computer, you will immediately take your pen and put a tick mark. So once the first theme is done, once you have mentioned the first author, you would put a tick mark there. Once you have started and once you have mentioned the second author, you have put the tick mark there. Once you have mentioned the third author, you put a tick mark there. So in a way, creating this mind map will sort of give you a trajectory, will sort of give you a direction in which you're supposed to go. Otherwise, you're like aimless. You don't know where to start, whom to ask, where to begin, how to end, nothing. Here, you already have the layout there. You just have to fill in data in the correct columns. This is a method that I follow. In all the publications that I have, I follow this method. Okay, I have been teaching my students as well about this method, and they have been successful in publishing as well. So I am proposing the same method to you. It's a very, very old school method. And most of these days, people do not want to take the pen because they find it to be a very hassle, take the book around and take a pen and writing, it's a very tedious thing. They just want to rely on their laptop. Half the things get saved in 101 documents that will be cluttered on the desktop, and then you'll be searching there, here, everywhere. And it is a messy process. But once you have this journal with you, it is going to make your life so much more easier. And I assure you, those of you who are facing a writer's block, this will completely eliminate the writer's block. I can assure you 100% that this method of creating a mind map, this is a very old school method, but this method of creating a mind map with your pen and paper, drawing, having sections, creating paragraphs, deciding how many paragraphs you want to have, deciding before you start writing itself, how many themes that you want to have, writing down code words for the evidences that you want to discuss in your paper, having it all charted out in your book, and then starting to write an article will sort of remove all your fears. You will be able to tackle your writer's block. And I'm sure those of you who want to publish in Scopus Index article, once you follow this method, this will be reflected in your writing as well. Your article will have a structure. Once articles have a structure, there are very, very high chances of it, being accepted and processed by the people who are reviewing. Because if the ideas are scattered all over the paper, even the person who's reviewing the article, will think that there's something missing in the contributor and something missing in the writer, right? So they'll have a tendency to dismiss the article. The key of a very good, fantastic research article lies in the structure, I would say personally. So this is one method. I'm just giving you a very, very brief way of writing, but I will definitely, in the coming sessions, I would definitely lead you through this. I would give you the hands-on task of writing a mind map, so that whichever project you have in mind, I will help you out. That is something else that we will discuss later. The next thing that we have to keep in mind is coherence. By coherence, I mean a natural progression of thoughts. Okay, there should be a basic storyline, whether be it in ascending order or descending order. There should be a natural, one idea should naturally flow into the other idea. Some people have the tendency of, they think about one topic and then they realize 3 days back they read about another article. Okay, maybe I should mention that as well. 2 months back, I read about this article. I read about this scholar. I mentioned that as well. Maybe that theory is related to this theory, so I'll mention that as well. You will mention a lot of things, and that it is very, very easy to get distracted. It is very, very easy to go into a completely different track altogether. By being coherent, it also means that you're staying in focus. So it is very important that if you have one paragraph, like I discussed in the structure, if you have one paragraph, that paragraph should naturally progress into the next paragraph. There should be a connecting sentence, a connecting idea, which will lead the readers naturally into the next idea altogether. Okay. The next thing, I think some of you are sending me questions on the chat box. I won't be able to see them right now, but we will discuss the questions later. Now, the next thing is explanation. Okay, when it comes to explanation, yeah, so I was talking about, I would say that writing is a meditative process. Okay, by meditative process, you have to be fully conscious of what you are writing and whether you have sufficiently explained your idea. It is more like teaching a person. Okay, about what you want to communicate in a very simple language. So when you write a statement, you have to ensure that that particular statement does not come out of thin air. There has to be a particular evidence that is, or an explanation that is given before or after, or you have to give the explanation right now. So by explanation, what do I mean? By explanation, I mean a use of theory, or you can give explanation in the discussion section. You can explain it in detail in the discussion section. Or by explanation, I mean statistics, examples, facts, citations. All these citations, most importantly, citations are very, very excellent ways of explaining what you want to give. You can say, this person has also discussed my idea. This is what I'm trying to communicate to you. You can discuss the nuances of your particular thought or the evaluation that you made or the observation that you made. You have to give explanation. For example, let's say you are writing that in one particular area of one particular region of Kerala, certain number of 90% of the people are alcoholics. Imagine you're writing that sentence and you're moving on to the next idea. I, as a person who's reading your article, will immediately think, from where did that idea come from? How do I substantiate that? I mean, from where did this person come up with this idea? Is it a bias? Is it an assumption? That is something that I'm going to discuss in the explanation section again. Is it your personal bias or assumption that you are trying to bring it here? So in order to avoid that, if you quote an article, if you cite an article saying that from this study that was conducted in this year by this person has studied that 90% of the people in this particular region are alcoholics, then it is a scientific thing. And by mentioning that, you're also explaining how you came to that conclusion that 90% of the people are alcoholics there. That is what I mean by explanation. So when you are writing, yeah.
Participants have confused with the slides that you are presently showing. They are telling it's not moving like that.
It's not moving.
Yeah, the present slide that they are confused with the present slide that you are showing now.
Okay, so what should I move to the previous?
Yeah, you can remove. That's better.
I should go to the previous slide.
No. The present slide actually they are asking. It's not moving, like only showing one slide only. No.
Yeah, I'm not moving. I'm discussing the explanation section, right?
Yeah, they are
covered language and objectivity. I'm still in the explanation.
Continuously asking you. That's why I informed you.
Hello.
Yeah. They're continuously asking. That's why I informed you. Yeah. Carry on.
She asked me you that just off that slide presentation now, because people confused that it is not moving.
This was the previous slide.
Yeah, now it's fine.
I have discussed structure and coherence.
So whenever you are starting this part, then only you can start to open this one.
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right now I'm discussing explanation.
So better to remove that slide. That's it. No problem.
So should I continue with this or should I go back again, start from again?
No. You can continue, please.
Okay, I discussed explanation part, okay, and I'm talking about assumptions now. Can you check? See in below the explanation part, the third point is checking for assumptions and biases. I'm discussing that part now. And I also gave the example of the 90% people being alcoholics in a particular area. I gave that example to discuss their checking for assumptions and biases. Okay, are we clear till now? I'm asking the participants, are they clear till now? You can just type in yes, no. The thing is, because I'm presenting. Yes, great. Because I'm presenting, I can only see the slide. I can't see the chat box. So that's the problem. Anyway, so explanation before, after the use of theory. I told you how you can use theory, discussion, statistics, examples, facts, and citations to give an explanation to whatever idea that you want to communicate. And also checking for assumptions and biases. So you should be very, very cautious when you're writing. You should be very aware when you're writing. Is this sentence that I have mentioned here, is it coming from a bias? Have I given scientific evidence? Have I given enough explanation? And only then you move on to the next part. If you're not going to explain that particular sentence in that particular section, you have to keep in mind that, okay, probably in the discussion part or probably in the conclusion part, I have to mention, you should not leave any part unattended. That's the major thing you need to keep in mind when you're talking about explanation during the writing process. Next is language. And by language, again, here I mean academic language. And by academic language, I do not mean complicated language. I mean sentences that are simple, grammatically and syntactically correct. The grammar should be on point. You should not be confused with past tense, present tense, prepositions, articles, all of the basic grammatical mistakes that people tend to make. You need to ensure that that is removed from language. So that you have to take care of. Basic syntax also you need to take care of. And as well as punctuation. The first thing that's common to any form of writing, not just academic writing, the language should be very clear, grammatically and syntactically correct. The next thing that you need to keep in mind is precision. Okay, by precision, I'm hinting at vocabulary. Okay, within the language section. By vocabulary, I mean every discipline will have probably technical terms that you want to discuss, right? That will be known to your discipline and people who are from your discipline, right? So you need to use that particular term when you're discussing that particular idea. So you need to ensure that the terms are correct, the concepts are correct, the terminology, everything is correct when you're talking about your writing process. So academic writing also means that you are efficient and capable enough to use the correct concept in the correct context. That is part of academic writing. Okay, the next is style. Style, it comes with a lot of practice. And I will give you an example. We will be talking about an example here much later. After the activity, I will show you what this academic style is. I will show you an example of a layman or a person who's not adept at academic writing, writing a particular summary, and how is it different from the academic style. Okay, that comes with practice, but we will eventually land up there. The next is judgments and evaluation. By judgment and evaluation, I basically mean that you are able to infuse a sort of critical thinking in your language. Your sentences, your observations should be evaluative in nature. You can't just write summaries and go. Summaries are not academic writing. By being a scholar, by trying to communicate an idea, by looking at the review of literature, when you read the previous studies conducted in that particular area, you as a scholar should be able to sort of critically evaluate the readings there and identify what the gap is. You have to say, okay, this person is dealing about all these things, but he has not discussed about this particular aspect. Okay, he's saying all of this is true, but in my particular region, this is not true. So you should ask critically, you should be able to evaluate what are the positives and negatives, what are the points or the statements that he's omitting, what are the observations and what are the biases that the other person has made. You need to evaluate that. And after you make that particular evaluation, that should be reflected in your writing as well. So when you're talking about language, it also means bringing an evaluative tone, bringing a critical tone into the writing. Okay, so by language, you need to ensure that the grammar and syntax is correct. You need to ensure that you are using the correct vocabulary, correct terms, the correct concepts in the correct context. You need to ensure that that academic style is there. Style, it comes with practice. I will tell you what style is after the example. And you need to also ensure what judgment and evaluation that you are able to bring forth through your writing. The last part is objectivity. The last element that you need to remember when you're talking about writing process is objectivity. By objectivity, I am talking about being faithful to scientific methods. Okay, I'll just quote an example. Okay, and from that you will be able to realize what I'm trying to say. Couple of months back, I was given an article to review. So I am a reviewer for a journal, a Q1 journal. So I was given an article to review. So when this journal gave me this article, they do give you a rubrics. Okay, you have to evaluate, review this journal article based on these criteria, and they will give you boxes to enter your comments and everything. So I was reading this article, and it was a qualitative study. This person, in the methods section, this person said that he or she, I'm not sure the gender of the person, it's a double-blind peer review, right? So this person said that they had interviewed nearly 40 or 41 people for this particular study. Okay, and in the method section, he goes on to mention how during the interview he was able to look at the emotions of the person, the changes in gestures, all of that, which actually gave him the inputs on, how to gave him inputs on his data, and he included all of that when he was analyzing his data. It is based on this, it enriched his study. So he went on to talk about the positive side of qualitative research. He specifically mentioned that he spoke to these people face to face, looked at their emotions, recorded their gestures, all of that. And I was impressed. And then this person was asked to give an appendix of the people whom he had interviewed. So towards the end of the article, there was this appendix, a list of people, and I'm sure he would have changed the names of the people. There were, in there, the funny part was, instead of 41, there were only some 30 or so, or 28 or 30 or so entries. So I was confused because I was cross-checking the data. As a reviewer, you need to cross-check and see whether the data is authentic, right? So I was cross-checking, and I thought in the beginning, he mentioned 40 to 41. Here, there were only 30, 28 or 30. So I was confused, okay? And there, within the entries, there were tabular columns. And in the third or fourth tabular column, he mentioned how he interviewed these people, okay? And I noticed that out of the 30 people, nearly some 20 people he had interviewed over the phone, okay? And it was shocking for me because it was not a Skype call, it was not a Google Meet call. If at least he had mentioned that he had interviewed these people virtually, then it is understandable that, okay, you can actually sort of see some sort of emotions on the other person's face, right? But this was a telephonic conversation. So I was puzzled. It was a major discrepancy there. So I communicated this to the journal, because journals, Q1 journals, are very, very faithful to these things, right? You need to be ethical when you're writing. You need to be an ethical scholar. So I communicated this to the journal. I'm not sure what the other reviewer did. I'm not sure who the other reviewer is and what the other review has written. So we have to give our recommendations, whether to recommend this for publication or put it on hold, or give a major revision. All of that is there. So some reviewers can be very, very harsh. They can immediately say that this is unethical, this person has done this discrepancy. They will definitely contact the author. But I'm saying we are approaching, or we are already in an age where people have this tendency of generating fake data, especially with all these AI tools and everything. People have this tendency of generating fake data. And when it comes to fake data and presenting fake data, it's very difficult to reflect that authenticity in writing. So I would say that if you're very, very faithful to a scientific method, if you're honest as a scholar, and if you actually interview these people and you know what their emotions are, you wouldn't be confounded. There would naturally be no discrepancies in your paper. So that is why I'm saying that faithfulness to scientific methods should be a part of objectivity, and that is one way in which you can achieve objectivity through your writing. The next thing is positionality of the researcher. By positionality of the researcher, I mean the privileges and the limitations that you have when you are researching on a particular topic. For instance, you are going on a fieldwork trip, and on the field you're interviewing people. You should be aware of your positionality. For example, your study is on a homosexual community in a particular region, and you are a heterosexual. So as a heterosexual, what kind of holistic study can you give on this homosexual community? You will definitely have limitations. You will definitely have an objective. You will definitely have a positive side to your study as well. You can be completely objective, but is it completely holistic? That question of the positionality of your researcher should also be reflected in your writing section. Okay, that can come as a limitation when you're talking about in the conclusion part. You can give a couple of sentences about your limitations that you face as a researcher. This can come in your method section also. The limitations that you face as a researcher, as your positionality. So that is where, in a way, that is related to the next point as well, which is self-reflexivity, where you're becoming self-reflexive. Am I being very honest and authentic in my writing process? Okay. Am I being very clear and very dedicated to communicating a very true idea? Because tomorrow, if your paper is celebrated And then 20 years later, people get to realize that yours was a fake data or you didn't actually do any research. Imagine the kind of shame that you would bring to yourself and probably to the institution that you belong to, or probably to the entire academic community. So you should be, you need to be responsible scholars as well, right? So academic writing in a way should also inculcate in you this intention that you need to be very honest and you need to be very scientific when you are collecting data and when you're communicating this data through writing. Okay, in the previous slide, this is what I discussed. The previous slide, this is what I discussed. We have so far discussed structure, coherence. We have discussed language, explanation, and objectivity. And I hope it's clear. And you need to understand that all these things that I've discussed, the structure, the coherence, the explanation, language, and objectivity, whatever points that we discussed so far, they're not watertight compartments. For instance, this explanation part that I discussed in this slide also comes in the previous slide, which is in the structure, where I spoke about the evidence part. It also comes in the coherence. Like this explanation also comes in the coherence. Similarly, this objectivity part is all over. So all these 5 elements are not watertight compartments, but they should they should be integrated as a whole. It should be closely knit in the writing process. Okay. For a person who's just starting off, this might be very overwhelming. And I know, because when I started off, it was very overwhelming for me. But through practice, you will definitely master the skill. Okay, it's a skill that you will definitely master. It comes through practice. Okay, the next thing that we need to, that I'm going to show you is an example. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 examples right now. And through the 3 examples, I am basically going to show it to you what I've discussed so far. Right. Now, in this first example, this is basically an article that was published last year. And this author has conducted a study in South Rajasthan. And it was on the Holy Spirit in the household, Pentecostalism, and construction of a moral community in South Rajasthan. So this was the title of his study.
Excuse me. Can you make this full screen?
Is it okay now?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, this is basically a study that was conducted in South Rajasthan on Pentecostalism and the construction of a moral community in South Rajasthan. Okay, now I've just taken the abstract and nothing else. And those of you who are interested can go read the article. It should be available. You can write to the author as well. Now, in this abstract, we will read the abstract together. Okay. After reading an abstract, I will discuss to you, I will bring your attention to 3 major things that you need to keep in mind when you're starting off with writing an abstract. Here, why are the Bill tribals increasingly converting to Pentecostalism in India? Drawing on more than a decade of in-depth ethnographic fieldwork among the Bills in South Rajasthan, this article argues that the Pentecostals have approached conversion not as a change of religion, Dharma Parivartan, but as a holistic transformation of life, Jivan Parivartan, in a context in which the state has been withdrawing from providing basic social services to people at its margins. The Pentecostal churches have come to play a vital role. Specifically, the article discusses that the presence of the Holy Spirit has brought about 3 major transformations: miracle healing, ethical subjectivity, and gender relations in the lives of the Bills. Finally, the article concludes that by combining developmental programs with prayer and fellowship, the Pentecostal churches have not only brought ethical transformations among the Bills, but have also converted them to a morally inspired existence. Now, this is a very, very, I would say, I would give, if I was to review this abstract, just the abstract, I would give it 5 on 5. Basically based on 3 reasons. One is the research question is very clear. Second is the method that he used to conduct his study is also very clear. The third is his observations, his findings are also very clear. An abstract basically needs these things: research question, your method, and your the findings. And that is something that I told you when that you're supposed to write in your book. The first page of your book should have these 3 questions. So in a way, if you have those 3 questions, the answers to those 3 questions or the 3 components ready in your book, you can definitely finish off the abstract in like probably 10-15 minutes, right? Now in this, you will see the first question. Why are the Bill tribals increasingly converting to Pentecostalism in India? That is the research question that this author had when he started off with his research. Why are they converting to this particular religion? Why? That was the question that he had in his mind. And the second sentence, he says, drawing on more than a decade of in-depth ethnographic fieldwork. So he's saying that for more than 10 years, he did in-depth ethnographic fieldwork among the people in that particular community in that area. So the method is also clear. He didn't do any other research method. He didn't offer any other research method. He did an ethnographic fieldwork for how long? For more than 10 years. Okay, so the authenticity of his research, his in-depth study is also reflected in that one particular sentence. After that, he is going on to talk in a context in which the state has been withdrawing from providing basic social services to people at its margins. The Pentecostal churches have come to play a vital role. That is an observation that he has made, and probably that is also derived from the review of literature that he had done before he started his study. So he had this observation. Okay, the state services are being withdrawn from these people. So where do these people go to? So naturally, they started to rely on Pentecostalism. But what kind of reliance did they have? He's saying that specifically the article discusses that the presence of the Holy Spirit has brought about 3 major transformations: miracle healing, ethical subjectivity, and gender relations in the lives of the Bills. Finally, the article concludes that by combining developmental programs with prayer and fellowship. So it is not just prayer and fellowship, but they're combining developmental programs as well. Because of the state withdrawal, the fellow Pentecostal churches have become a hit in that particular area. So there he's giving his finding there. So when I, as a researcher, if I'm doing a particular research related on a topic that is remotely related to this area, after reading this abstract, I will decide whether should I read the complete article or not. Based on this, I will say, okay, this is what he's discussing. Maybe this would be interesting. I can use some inputs from his study in my research as well. Okay, let's continue reading. That is the magic that this abstract has created. This person did not go into the history of the Bills. He did not go into the history of Pentecostalism. He did not go into the abstract geographical details of the southern Rajasthan and all of that. He didn't go into the extra, the background noise. He didn't bother about that. He had 3 major agendas in his mind. First was communicate the research question. Second was talk about the method that he used to probe the research question. The third was about the finding. Communicate to the audience. The audience will then decide whether to continue reading the full article, to download that article, or read that article or not. This is a very, very simple way. This is academic writing. The sentences here are not very complicated, but the objective is very clear. When the objective is clear, it immediately and automatically becomes part of academic writing. It's not creative. The objective should be clear. Okay. The second example is taken from the source, that this article that was written almost 10 years back. This author talks about controllable laughter, managing sex work through humor. It was a very interesting article. And I was reading this article and I found how efficiently she brings about 2 distinct themes and topics together, and how she has done this research. Now here, I'm taking only an excerpt. I'm not discussing the entire article. But this excerpt that I have taken from the review of literature section, I want to bring your attention to a couple of things here. Okay. First is the language that she has used. Okay. And the number of the themes that she is discussing over here, and the number of citations that she has given. Okay. Number 1. Here, I'll just read out this particular section. Humor has been identified as a symbolic resource used by occupational groups to define beliefs, behaviors, and values. Okay, so basically she's discussing what humor is, and she's to substantiate her definition of what humor is and what how it is used in the occupational context. She's also quoting a particular writer over here, a particular scholar over here. So she's substantiating her definition of what humor, how humor is used in the occupational context. Next, she says, Palmer condenses the theoretical literature on humor to suggest that the role of jokes is to relieve anxiety and fear, breach inhibitions, and act as a safety valve for difficult subjects and feelings. Professions that deal with sensitive issues such as death, trauma, and health use humor as a coping strategy. Okay, number one. Next person that she's quoting is Moran and Massan report that emergency workers use humor as a positive strategy to reduce tension, reinterpret events, and reframe distressing episodes. Third person that she's quoting, Alexander and Wells conducted a study on police officers involved in body handling after the Piper Alpha oil rig disaster in 1988 and concluded that black humor contributed to the officers remaining relatively unscathed from the body recovery mission. It is not only people who work in extreme professions that rely on humor to keep emotions in check. Coal mines, departmental stores, schools, and industrial shop floors are environments that utilize humor as a strategy to cope with difficult relationships and conditions. Now, the thing here is you need to realize that in this particular paragraph, okay, she has decided what she's going to, the theme that she's going to discuss about. And she has given, in that theme is reflected in the introduction of the sentences, the introductory sentence, which is humor in the occupational, how humor is used in the occupational context. Now, what are the occupational contexts that she's using here? She's talking about the role of jokes. She's talking about professions that deal with sensitive issues like death, trauma, and health. She's also talking about the police officers using humor. In three different contexts, she's talking about, she's using three different studies, and she's substantiating her idea, or she's giving evidence to the fact that these difficult tasks, professions that involve a lot of difficult tasks and difficult emotions, use humor as a coping strategy. Okay, so here you see, she could have discussed humor probably in the theater. Humor is also used in theater. Humor is also used in films. Humor is also used in folk performances. But instead of discussing about folk performances and all of that, here her agenda was to only discuss about humor in the occupational context that involve difficult situations, right? And when you're talking about difficult situations, she has mentioned three studies. You see, here she's giving evidence. Here she's staying within the topic. She's not digressing. And towards the end, the last paragraph, the last sentence, coal mines, departmental stores, schools, that sentence, that particular sentence is a kind of the summary or the kind of evaluation that she has made after reading these three studies. There's also a footnote. You see one small number 2 there after conditions. There's also a footnote there, where she's discussing other studies also. Okay, so after reading all these studies, she has realized that in these extreme difficult situations, occupations that involve difficult tasks and emotions and all of that, they use humor as a coping strategy. Okay, so I use this example to show you that how to remain within focus, how to choose one theme, and how to use evidences to support that particular theme. So imagine you and I was writing this article, okay? So I told you about the book that we have to maintain, right? So in our book, we will definitely write, okay, in the review of literature section, probably in the second last paragraph, I will talk about humor in the occupational context. That would be my theme. Under that, I would draw lines. Under that, what are the occupations that I want to discuss? Definitely, I will write Palmer. Definitely, I will write Moran and Massan. Definitely, I will write Alexander and Wells. Those are the three studies that I want to mention. So when I'm writing this article, when I'm typing this article, as soon as I've mentioned about Palmer, I will put a tick mark in my book. As soon as I have mentioned about Moran and Massan, I will put a tick mark in my book. As soon as I mentioned about Alexander, I will put a tick mark in my book. So you know that, okay, I have mentioned all these writers, and correctly I've mentioned the writers in the correct context, not just so that, I'm just not showing off that I've read like 1,000 papers, right? So this is how you develop that structure. This is how you develop the coherence, and this is how you develop the design of the paper, okay? This is one example. The next example is taken from a study, again, on the theme of humor. This appeared in a Journal of Management Studies. Okay, this is in a completely different context, and this study again was published quite some time ago. This again is an excerpt taken from the review of literature section. Okay, can I have one person from the audience to just unmute yourself and just read at least just the first paragraph of this excerpt, nothing else, just the first paragraph. From in to within the workplace.
Yeah, you can use mouse. We have unmute.
In the contemporary workplace, there is growing managerial interest in controlling and regulating employee internet use. While jokes have always been passed around offices and factories, new technologies are a convenient means for their circulation. Some managers fear that cyber humor is an unhelpful distraction from work tasks. They are also concerned that email may facilitate the informal communication of potentially offensive jokes. Cases of sexual, ethnic, or racial harassment may be taken against the company when the material being downloaded is deemed obscene. Consequently, formalized email and internet policies, surveillance software, secret monitoring, and random audits are increasingly common. One result of this clampdown has been the disciplining and even sacking of a number of employees for inappropriate internet use. While such managerial surveillance may be seen as highly intrusive, for those employees who experience cyber humor as oppressive and degrading, it is an essential measure. Suffice it to say that internet humor increasingly constitutes a potential area for censorship and a contested terrain within the workplace.
Good. So thank you so much for reading. I know I'm not sure who this person was that read, but thank you so much. In this paragraph, if you see, again, I'm bringing your attention to the theme that he has discussed. In this particular paragraph, they are talking about humor and the use of jokes in the workplace context and how it is related to the use of how it is connected to how it is circulated. For instance, how it is circulated through the internet. So when you are in an office context, when you're in an office environment, the workplace environment, how do you circulate humor? And when the management knows how the humor is circulated, what kind of disciplinary measures are taken for this? So basically, this is the theme that he has discussed, and he's talking about it in detail. He has sufficiently given examples and explained it very clearly. Now, the reason why I gave this example is I wanted to take note of the language that he has used. The sentences are not very, very long. They're very, very simple sentences. I don't think he's used very, very complicated words where you have to pick up the dictionary and like turn and flip the pages and see the meaning of the word. You see, right? He's not using all these fancy, flowery language. It is very simple words in very, very simple language he's communicating to us. So by this, you will realize that academic writing is not about using flowery language. Nobody even cares about flowery language, in fact. They are concerned. People are concerned. Journals are concerned about the idea that you have. Is it communicated in a correct manner? Is it communicated in a clear manner? And is it communicated in a very ethical manner? That's all they care. They do not care about flowery language. They're not, there's no point in you having flowery language if your content does not make sense, right? So here, this is a very good example to show you that this person has not used any complicated words, complicated jargons where you have to take the dictionary. Through simple language, through simple words, he has discussed what he has to talk about. This is the example that I have given you. Now, from these three examples, I have tried to show you how you have to bring an evaluative tone to your writing, how you should use simple language, but in a very, very clear manner, how you can speak about your particular idea, how to formulate the ideas, the theme that you are supposed to use, the coherence part that I discussed in the elements part, right? The coherence part, how to bring that coherence. When you're discussing about the particular theme, you have to be loyal to that particular theme that you're discussing in that paragraph and use evidences, use citations to substantiate, to give evidence to the point. so that and ended with an evaluative tone so that the ideas communicated across. Okay, so I hope these three examples are sufficient for you to get a better idea on what academic writing is. Now, this is something that I have to address when it comes to academic writing. And what I'm going to say here is probably going to be very unpopular, especially in an age where people are promoting a lot of AI. Now, yesterday, I was listening to this one lecture by a professor at JNU, and he was talking about and the lecture was on AI and the use of AI and all of that. And he was saying how Socrates has discussed about during the Egyptian period, there was this discussion about writing. Okay, and how Socrates sort of the ministry at that time did not promote writing. Socrates also did not promote writing, primarily because of the fact that he said, when you encourage writing, you are in a way encouraging forgetfulness. Because until then, everything is in the mind. Your mind is very sharp. Your mind is very chiseled and all of that. But then when you start writing, you in a way are also increasing this tendency of being forgetful. And that he was talking about writing. And he related that to artificial intelligence also, and the number of tools that we have right now. And he was talking about how, in a way, AI is also creating a kind of scary world out there, especially for scholars. Because within 5 minutes, within 10 minutes, you can create good data, but you can also create fake data, right? I am sure AI has benefited people within 5 minutes. If you do not have time to read an article, or if you cannot find an explanation to a particular paragraph of a very difficult scholar, probably can put it in chat PDF and derive an explanation, or probably can get an understanding, a brief understanding of what an article is. It is a 5 minutes work, your life is made easy, all of that. But we should also understand that when it comes to developing a skill of writing, we have this tendency that, okay, since now AI is there, let's depend on it. So this is a very, very thin line. Where do you stop? Where do you know when to approach an AI software, an AI tool, or when to like draw a boundary and say, no, this is something that I will do. It's a very, very thin line. So if you want to learn academic writing, I would sort of urge you to draw a line from artificial intelligence, because AI will definitely, save a lot of time, but will also, steal your skill. It will just snatch away your skill of writing. You will ultimately reach a point where even to frame an email, you will have to open ChatGPT. How would I write a mail to my supervisor? And you'll ask ChatGPT to write a mail. Even basic sentences, no, you will heavily depend on AI. And if the laptop crashes, your life will also crash. So that is why, if you are focusing on developing the skill of writing, you should keep AI aside, probably use it for like 3 or 4 or 5% of your research work. But remaining time, you need to take your book, start reading. This is when I have to, I'm talking about the second reading to chisel the brain as well, to develop the style of writing, right? I was talking about it in the previous slides also. The style of academic writing will not come one fine day. I am sure that if you are able to pick up an article and read it from the first sentence till the last sentence, it might take some time for beginners. You will probably have to read very slowly, but start slowly. It's a request. Start slowly. You take time. You take probably one whole day for one entire article. With time, probably you will take only just 5 minutes to read an article. You will read it very quickly. You will know how to read, when to read. By reading articles, if you read at least 50 articles for your paper that you're going to write, I'm telling you that you are automatically training your brain to develop the style of writing. So after reading those 50 articles, when you are writing your article, when you're typing your article on your laptop, by default, the style that is used in those papers will immediately be reflected in your writing as well. That is how I'm sure 100% of the people, or 99% of the people, learned the writing skill by training the mind. And that writing can't be learned through AI. It requires time, it requires dedication. You will make, in the beginning, you will write very hopeless articles, but you will have to show it to an expert. You will have to show it to a person who has experience in writing in articles. Get it checked, find out where you're going wrong, how to improve the article, how to make it more, how to refine the article basically. And with practice, you will be able to produce fantastic articles. That is why I'm saying this question of AI is very tricky, because in a way, it tends to produce mediocre scholars as well. Because right now, I am not sure a person can quote like 10 articles or 20 articles, and I'm not sure whether he has actually read it or whether the AI read it. Okay. So in a way, because of this, a lot of mediocre scholars are also being generated, and I'm being very honest here. But since this session is about academic writing, I will not recommend using any AI tools for writing. It is going to be a pen and paper session. Now, I think the organizers of this program will also be conducting a detailed session of academic writing. It will be a 10-day course. And in the 10-day course, people who have probably a mini project in their mind, you can come up with your project and you can show it to the resource person. I will also be part of this course, the writing course. We will help you to refine your article and ensure that you have at least improved 30 to 40% from where you are, from the stage that you are right now. Okay, so that requires time. It requires, I think it's although 10 days program, it will span for 1 month, so that we will give you enough time to write and practice and change. We would give you suggestions. We would give you comments to improve, refine it, so that writing is also improved. This is one thing that I wanted to communicate to you through this course. Next, we will move to the fun part of writing, academic writing. I deliberately introduced this aspect so that, you need to understand that academic writing can also be fun. Now, the task that I'm going to give you here is I am going to show you a short film. Okay, the film will be probably 3 to 4 minutes long. That's it. Now, when you watch the film, you have to be very, very critical of the film as well. Because when you look at the film and you watch the film, you should associate that to the writing process as well. So in the plot, basically, there is this one person. He stumbles upon something. He becomes curious. He has a particular question in his mind, a dilemma in his mind. Then he becomes curious. He explores something through certain things. And then he comes to a conclusion. He comes to a particular finding. Now, this basic thing can be related to the research process itself. You'll have a question in mind. You'll use certain methods to probe the question, and then you will come up with a finding. Okay, it might be difficult for some of you, but I would recommend you just take a try. I'm going to be there with you. So what you're supposed to do is you take your pen and your paper, and as soon as you watch the film, you write the research question, whatever the question that the character of that plot. There's only one character in the short film. What question did the character have in his mind when he started his experiments? Okay, that research question, write it in one single sentence. Okay, next is what method. Okay, what method he had in his mind. What is the method that he used to conduct his experiment? What was the finding? What was the limitation? It should not be like 3 or 4 sentences long. I don't want like paragraphs and paragraphs. Just one single sentence. In one single sentence should reflect what the research question was, what the method was, finding was, and the limitation was. Got it? That's the task. I will show you the film right now. For those of you who want the film to be shown a second time, I will show it again. But we will watch this and stop sharing. Are you guys able to see the screen?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Screen is visible.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll start playing right now. understood the... Do you want me to play it again?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
How many yeses, how many no's? For some of you might want me to play it again. It's a very short film, right? So I'll play it again. I hope it's a very interesting short. Sorry. Hello. Irfan Iqbal, do you want to say something? Okay. So you can start thinking about what the research question was that this character had. What was the research question this character had? Write it in one sentence. What was the method that he used to do his particular investigation? Like, write it in one sentence. What was the finding that he made? And what was the limitation of the study? Can one of you unmute yourself? And I want full sentences, not like phrases or words. I need full sentences.
Can you just repeat the question once more?
Which question?
The question that you want us to answer.
What the research question is, what the method is, what the finding is, and what the limitation is. Compare this writing process to the film that you saw just now, and write in full sentence what the research question was that this character had in mind. What was the method that the character used to conduct his investigation? What was the finding that he made? And what was the limitation of his finding? Okay. Write it in full sentence and give it to me. That's it.
The research question that the writer had in mind would be the usage of black hole in various different instruments in his surroundings.
Full one sentence in it should be a question with the question mark at the end.
Okay. So what is the usage of black hole in ordinary surroundings?
You're almost there, but what do you mean by ordinary surroundings? It's very unclear over there.
In daily usage, that is from daily surroundings, from the surroundings that we experience on our daily basis.
Imagine if this film had was extended for quite some more time. Do you think the person would have tried to use a black hole for other purposes as well? So when you're framing this question, when you use for what was the first word that you used? Ordinary objects or ordinary surroundings. Don't you think that the word ordinary surroundings has some kind of ambiguity in it? Some kind of it's not very clear.
Yes,
clarity, right?
Film is also ambiguous. It is ending at an unended topic. That is why.
Unended topic in the sense you're not looking at the philosophical aspect, right? The person gets stuck there. That's all we need to know. The person even when you do the research, you're not going to see how the end is, right? Forever. You have to keep doing your research in social context, in social sciences. The research that you're doing at this point in time, probably after 5 or 6 years, your finding will be completely irrelevant, right? So you can't have a complete final conclusion to everything. Whatever you write would be a scientific evidence that you're giving. That's it. So in this film also, you need not have to have you need not know what is going to happen to the person next. With whatever data that we have right now, I just wanted you to create a question. So in that question that you gave me, the word ordinary surroundings is very unclear. So, but the first part of the question that you said, what was the significance of what was the question that you said?
Black hole.
Yeah,
what is the significance of yes.
Yes, what was the significance of the black hole would be the research question. Correct. Now, what would be the method?
In this study,
yeah,
we have gone through proper methodology of using the black hole pages in different circumstances. For instance, we have used it in a vending machine and we have used it in a locker.
What is the, if you read the correct terminology that you would use in research methodology books, you have different terminologies that you use for the study that or the experiments that he has conducted. What was the exact term that you use?
He used the experimentation method.
Basically, trial and error method. So when you're talking about trial and error method, give it to me in a sentence. Just put it in a sentence and give it to me. That's it.
The trial and error method of experimentation was used to test whether the black hole can be used to trespass any medium.
Okay, good. Finding?
The black hole can be used to trespass any medium as long as it is in direct contact with it.
Okay. The limitation?
The black hole may not, the use of the black hole may not be reversed. No.
May not be reversed.
It can be that the printout of the black hole needs to be held upright and in close contact to the object that needs to be accessed.
Too many words, write it in a shortened form. You can use, instead of giving 3 words over there, you could have just said 1 word. Whatever you said was correct. I agree to it and good. What he said was perfect, but write it in a more concise manner.
Direct contact with a
Ray, when
medium.
I say not, when I
No.
say concise manner, not a phrase, a sentence. Try, it's okay, it's right.
If the printout of the black hole is not in direct contact, one cannot use the printout of that black hole.
Instead of giving it to me as a conditional, can I give it to me as one straight sentence? It's, here you're saying conditions, no? If this does not happen, that does not happen. That can't be mentioned. That's not the style that you use. Give it to me in one perfect sentence, like one just not a conditional language. But it's great. I had given this activity for another batch, and they had spoken about greed. They had spoken about human tendency to go beyond the limits. They went to a completely whole dimension altogether. But I'm very, very happy with this batch. Extremely excellent batch.
Anuja, please go through the chat box. You can see others' contribution here.
Can somebody read it out to me so that it would be easier for me? No? Rizwana, can you read it out for me so that?
Yes, yes. Ananda Padmanabhan. Yeah. A research question, how to assess the things without barriers. And method, create a black hole in a paper. Findings, the black hole in the paper can access things without barrier. Limitations, black hole is in a paper and it is susceptible of falling off.
Problems with those statements is all of them are correct, but he has used phrases, not complete sentences. Second is they are not well framed. They are very, very informal language. It's not a formal language that you have used. It's a problem with the style of writing. The answers are correct, but it's a problem with the style of writing. I will show you the answers. I have written the answers in the next slide. So I will show you what the answers are. So you will know what I am expecting, or what any reviewer or what a journal is expecting when you're framing these questions. No, I will show you. But the problem with his response was that it was just phrases and it was not in the style that journals would expect. Next point.
Yeah. Can I proceed?
Yeah, sure.
Supriya Yadav. Research question, how curiosity killed the cat. Method, personal experience. Findings, limitations or lack of experience. And limitation, holistic understanding of the situation.
No. Curiosity killed the cat. How is that a question? That is not a full question. No? I had specifically said you have to write a full question. By full question, I meant using the word what, why, how, etc. It's not a full question. And the findings part and the methodology part was wrong. Basically, it is a trial and error method that he has used. And finding also is not the correct answer. The next person.
Arogya Anparagi. Question is, what is the black hole? Method, investigation. Findings, he could take things from the other side. Limitations, he can take only things that his hand can reach.
Again, the first part. What is the first thing again? First answer for the research question. What is a black
hole? Yeah.
It's not very clear. If you had used the word, what is the purpose of the black hole or what is the significance of the black hole, it would have added more edge to the question. It would have been more clear, more precise. You will exactly know what you're writing. What is the significance of the black hole? What is the next thing that she said?
A method, investigation.
Just a word. I'm not looking for words. I want full sentences. Next, finding.
And he could take things from other side.
Informal language, and it's not very clear. Other side of what? Other side of transparent objects or opaque objects, or what is it? Because here he's not looking at any transparent objects, right? Transparent or or fluid objects. He's not putting his hand into water or anything, or gas or anything, right? You have to be specific. Next.
And next question, only one question, that is, why is not black hole exist in the world? So far. She mentioned only that question. Why is it is not black hole exist in the world?
That's a rhetorical question. Why is the black hole not existing in this world? Sounds more like a rhetorical question. It's not like a scientific question that you would want to probe as a research
Yeah.
area.
And question from Sarah. Question: what is the black hole? What is the black hole?
Again, as told you,
Yes.
it would have been more precise if you would have added the word significance or purpose.
Yeah. And Emil, research question: application of black hole in vending machine and locker.
No, that's not the research question.
And then next, he used a survey research design with observation and his instrument for data collection. It's an experimental research.
Next. That's not I told you, like I specifically said, write it in a full sentence that you would write in your research paper, like one proper sentence in an academic style. I was looking for that.
Okay.
Limitation can be like from the above findings, it is concluded that the black hole paper should align with the wall, and the presence of black hole is very needed for access to any object.
Answer is correct. Presence of the black hole is the answer is perfect. But you have used two sentences and you have used a conjunction. In between, you have written the word and. Now, instead of using the word and, you combine these two sentences and give it to me in one sentence. Bus. The answer is correct, but it is a long sentence, right? Instead of making it into a long sentence by adding a conjunction, you remove that and put it in one sentence and give it to me.
Ma'am, my research question is, what else can be done with the black circle on that paper?
Refine, you need to refine it.
Method is quantitative method is used to explore the properties of paper.
Properties of paper.
Or properties or black circle on the paper.
That's not the method, no? What is the method that you used?
To explore the ideas, thoughts.
So what was the method that you used? You did a series
experimental.
of trial and error method, right? So that was that technical word. I told you, right? When you're writing academic papers, you need to use the correct word. For instance, you would use words like sampling. You would use words like, positionality. All of these are words that you would use in academic methods section. You need to use the correct words. I can't simply say I went around and looked at whichever people I found it very convenient. I interviewed all of them. There is a word to it. Convenient sampling, right? So that use the correct word for that.
Finding is things can be transmitted across the black circle.
Things can be transmitted
across the black circle.
But in this particular context, he's not putting one thing into another. He's not transmitting things. So transmitting basically is sending from one object to another area or region.
And the limitation is the paper should align with the same surface during the experiment.
Yes, can you refine that a little bit more? It's a correct answer. It's a perfect answer.
With the same surface during the process. During the process.
No, I will show you what answers I'm looking for. Then you will get an idea.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yes. Yes.
Research question: what is the significance of the black hole? Many of you got it correct. Method: the researcher employed an experimental approach using trial and error method to identify the functional capabilities of the black hole. Method: finding: the black hole is a portal that gives the individual access through solid objects. Okay. Next is limitation. The black hole's ability to function as a portal is heavily dependent on the position of the paper. So in the limitation part, the few of you got the answers correct. Almost all of you got the answers correct. But the problem is that you have written it in two sentences. You have added and but and if and all. If this happens, that happens. And this happens and that happens. Instead of using all these words, no extra words, no, concise that and put it in one sentence. That's why I said put it in one sentence. I've showed you how you can put it in one sentence. The black hole's ability to function as a portal is heavily dependent on the position of the paper. Next, the finding. The black hole is a portal that gives the individual access through solid objects. Here I've used the word specifically solid objects. The reason why is because the person is not looking at any gaseous objects or liquid objects, right? He's only looking at solid objects. By mentioning solid objects, you're bringing more specificity to your paper. You're becoming very, very specific. You're becoming very precise. There is no unanswered questions when a person reads a sentence. So you need to be more precise. This is a skill that you develop while writing. Answers are all correct, but the style should be refined. Now, the same thing. I think, do we have time? We have, I think, half an hour left, no? Till 9.
Yes.
Can one of you, or can all of you just randomly try writing a summary of this? Because in the next slide, I will show you how a person who has no practice of writing summaries in academic style would write a summary, a layman basically, and a person who's starting off with a skill or a person who's experienced in academic writing, how he would write the summary. I will show you both the styles so that you will understand very carefully what I'm referring to as academic style. Okay, can you just, one of you just give it a try? Just write a summary very quickly, whatever you saw. There's a child in the background. I think probably getting annoyed with this entire thing. I'll just take in one answer. Whichever person finishes writing first can just unmute themselves and tell me the summary. And then I will take that and then we will discuss the layman summary and the academic style summary. And then we will proceed to the question and answer session.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
this research explores the prospects of the black hole by using the trial and error experimental approach. Black hole can give access through solid objects is the finding, but the presence of paper is essential for access.
You missed the method part.
Actually, I said by using the trial and error experimental method.
You could have given a little bit more details. Example, for
Okay.
instance, how did he give, what were the experiments that he conducted? Can you
Okay.
add few more sentences there? It would be good.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have never written papers, first of all.
No problem, no problem.
The study aimed at exploring the significance of the black hole. The study was conducted using the trial and error method of experimentation. Various mediums were experimented with, including the photocopier, vending machine, doors, and safes. It was found that the black hole could be used to trespass solid objects. It was, however, found that physical contact with the solid objects was crucial to this process.
Good.
Okay.
Nobody would say that you have no practice of writing research
Thank you.
papers. Why haven't you started writing research papers? This is great. This is
Okay,
wonderful.
thank
This
you.
is exactly what I was looking for. Congrats.
Thank you,
Uh,
ma'am.
this is a layman summary. A person who's not experienced in academic writing would write. Basically, in the black hole, the story is about an office worker who finds a piece of paper with a black hole on it while taking a printout. He accidentally puts a paper cup inside the black hole, but he finds out that he can take it back. He realizes that he can take all the objects he likes, but he wants to confirm it. So he puts his hand through the black hole and then goes to the vending machine to steal snacks. He confirms that he has obtained power through the black hole and he can take anything he wishes. But he gets into a problem when he wants to steal money from the locker. He goes inside the locker through the black hole to take all the money, but the paper falls off from the locker because he did not paste the paper properly. So we can conclude that the black hole only works when it stays on the paper. It is actually a summary, but you would see that it sounds like as if you're gossiping to somebody. This happened and that happened and this happened and I say ho gaya. All of these things, it sounds like as if you're gossiping to somebody, right? The summary is there, but that edge, the academic style is missing. Now, how would you write the same thing in an academic style? The black hole. In the black hole, the narrative centers around a disillusioned office worker who stumbles upon a sheet of paper with a black hole. He realizes that the black hole functions as a portal, allowing him to access solid objects. He proceeds to verify his claims through a series of experiments where he attempts to access different objects through solid surfaces. The experiments include inserting his hand through the black hole and obtaining snacks from the vending machine. He confirms that the black hole grants the user limitless powers by enabling him to bypass physical barriers with ease. However, this power is limited by the black hole's dependence on its position on the paper. It is evidence that the black hole on the paper detaches from the body of the safe. This is evidenced when the black hole of the paper detaches from the body of the safe and the officer gets fully trapped inside while stealing the money. So, see, I told you in this last part, you see, he's saying that there is a limitation. In this academic style, I'm mentioning that there is a limitation. But how did I come to that limitation? That is given in the last sentence. When the black hole on the paper detaches from the body of the safe and the officer gets fully trapped inside it while stealing money. The key word that I've used here is evidenced. That is a word to show that this is how I have come to the conclusion that this particular black hole has a particular limitation. Right? I'm explaining it. I've also explained what the research question was. I've explained the method that he used and by experiments, what was the experiment? I explained it a little bit more. As part of academic writing, when during my lecture, I told you every time you mention a sentence, you should give explanation to how did you come to the conclusion. So I'm giving, okay, the experiments that he did was this. I mentioned in one sentence itself. I have not used 10 sentences to explain one idea. I've probably used 1 or 2, maximum 2 sentences to explain one idea. That's it. This would be the academic style that would be appreciated, not the style that we saw here, layman summary. You see the difference in style? That was a layman thing. This was the academic style. This comes with practice, and I'm happy some of you are able to crack it, but you need more practice. So that's it. If you have any questions, please do ask me. And yeah, before I end, I kept telling it needs more practice, more practice. I think I've mentioned it 1,000 times during the thing. So as a practice, I mentioned this, I think the organizers would be sending out registration forms for the academic workshop, academic writing workshop. It's a 10-day course. Those of you who are interested in defining your language and getting the practice of writing, or those who have good language but you don't know where to start, if you're stumbling, if you have this writer's block, all the problems that you are facing can be tackled if you actually register for the workshop. So I would sincerely encourage all of you to register for the workshop. It would be a 10-day program. It will be conducted during the weekends for 2 hours each. And all of you who register for the program, you would be given individual feedback where all your, you will have to have a mini project in your hand, and all your projects, all your writing will be evaluated, comments will be given for your writing, and you will be able to ensure that you have made a significant process by the end of the workshop. So if you're interested, please do register for the workshop. Yes. Now, questions, please.
Ma'am,
Yes.
thank you for your presentation. And actually, you said our language, we should be very much careful because English is not our mother tongue. So there are a lot of limitations. So in what ways we can improve our language?
Some of the ways in which you can improve the language, I think I mentioned reading academic articles. Okay, by reading, at least when you're decided on your topic of research, you read at least 50 articles that is related to that research. And by reading continuously, you're basically training your brain to like adapt to that particular style, use the correct words, and automatically you will get into the writings spree, you know, like into that form of writing. English is not my first language, I mean, native language too. It's not my mother tongue. But people like me are definitely writing and publishing, right? So if I can do it, you can definitely do it. It's not a humongous thing at all. It's possible. So I would suggest read academic articles from good publication, download articles from Q1 journals, or speak to scholars who have written significantly in your area, contact them and get journals and books from them, and from good publications, Routledge, OUP, read those books to see that, no, it shouldn't be like a very local journal. Go to good publications and read the language that they are writing in. Definitely you will be able to improve. I wouldn't ask you to read like newspapers and all that, because at this stage, since we are focusing on academic writing and since you're focusing on research, you have to read research articles, books, works, scholarly works.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anuja, just we want to inform the participants, we have provided the feedback form.
Okay, there is a feedback link
chat
to the
box.
feedback form given in the chat box. So those of you who want to give feedback to me or to the organizers, if you have any suggestions, or if you want to say that I missed certain part, or I should have dealt with certain other aspects, whatever it is, you can mention in the feedback form. The link is there in the chat box. And for other details will be shared by the organizers. Any other questions?
Hello, ma'am. It was a great session. Thank you for that. And this question is not something certainly connected to the topic, but I just want to know more about you. Like, what are you doing, and what are some papers that you have published, just for reading and to have inspired with your experience and such, if you don't mind.
You want
I think many of us are curious about that. So
they did give a brief introduction about me before the class started. They introduced me. So probably I think
I wasn't there.
So if you want to see my publications, go to Google Scholar and type Anuja Jose. My publications will be there. Regarding my experience, I have teaching experience of working at a college in Chennai. I worked there as an assistant professor at Stella Maris College for 4 years. I have obtained a fellowship to Heidelberg University, Germany. I was there for 4 months at the institute in Germany. I have publications. I'm pursuing a PhD. My master's and MPhil and everything was in English literature, but the research that I'm pursuing is in anthropology. So I have an interdisciplinary approach. I'm the reviewer for a journal called Mortality. I'm also a copy editor. I edit articles. I freelance. Yeah, that's basically about me.
Thank you. That was great. But I have already checked you in the Google Scholar, but I can't find someone.
I will
that
send you
is
my
named
articles.
Rajos.
If you give me your email ID, I will send you my articles.
Okay, sure, sure. Can I just type it in the comment
Yeah,
box?
sure.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thank you.
ALASOVR9. Rizwana, I think a couple people
This
are
is
asking.
Nancy. I'm sorry, I had already posted on the chat. Most of the research, no, in the journal, they look forward for futuristic research that has to be mentioned on a research paper. Now, can you just tell us if in the same paper, the black hole one, how would you connect it to the futuristic research?
I would have to think about it. By futuristic research, I was speaking about the. Sorry.
No, that was an, I don't know, it was from someone else.
By futuristic research, I was speaking about the limitations and the.
No, how is this research is giving extension for the other new researchers?
For instance, they have not looked at gaseous and solid objects. So by specifically talking about solid objects, there's also a scope, and that's the limitation of the study in a way. And you can also mention that as a part of the scope as well. So in future studies, you can also use the black hole, study the black hole for gaseous objects or for liquid objects, liquid stuff. So you can frame it in that manner too.
Can we also think like this about to the other areas of research? Can we connect it, the black hole research, or the can we look from the interdisciplinary perspective? Is that possible?
You mean more specific, please?
The perception. Moving on to the perception of black hole or understanding of it.
More specific. You're talking about perception, but what perception are you talking about?
Perception. I said about the perception of here it could be about maybe my field is on the marketing, so I would think from the consumer's perception on black hole.
Exactly. So when you were saying perception, I wanted what perception are you talking about? So marketing perspective. So we can definitely talk about market this thing, the use of the black hole within the marketing perspective. That yes, but if you are within the discipline and if you're talking about the black hole in a journal of management studies, for instance, but if you're sending the article to probably a journal that is associated with sociology or anthropology, there when you talk about management studies, you're broadening the scope beyond limit. So you need to stay within the track and see how within the particular discipline you can contribute or look at the purpose or the use of the black hole in another manner, in another way also. So I hope I've answered it.
Yeah, thank you.
Rizwana?
Yes. Yeah.
There are a couple of people who have sent their email IDs to me. I thought it was just one or two, and I was like frantically writing all the email IDs.
No issues. We get it. Yeah, we can
send
use it.
me the email IDs to me so that I can.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I have a question regarding citation. I think I am audible.
Yeah, you are.
Can we cite a single person in different area of an article? We can cite the codes or concepts of a person or a researcher in introduction part or the research methodology part.
Yeah.
Is there any limit or any kinds of limitation or limits to be
if it is a very core concept, if it is a very core theoretical concept that you are discussing in your paper, definitely you can quote your the scholar or this theorist multiple times. But multiple times, I don't mean like 50 or 60 times. It could be like 5-6 times. There's a limit, right? In the person would be mentioned probably in the introduction section and the literature review of literature, probably in the discussion, not more than that, right? But definitely you will have to mention other scholars as well. So in the reference list, this person's name will be mentioned only once, but with one reference you can't publish an article. Definitely they would seek at least some, I think in my papers there were at least 40 to 50 references that I have used in my papers while publishing and refer to all these people. So you'll have to mention, and along with one person you can mention a couple of other scholars also who have sort of substantiated his ideas. So you can mention 2-3 citations within one in comma, like if you're going with in the APA style, you mention one person's comma the year, and then semicolon, one person comma the year. You can mention 2-3 scholars who have discussed the same area. You don't just completely rely on one person, and it's okay to mention one person multiple times.
Thank you, ma'am. So we can quote any kinds of idea or concept at in different areas of
Any
our
ideas?
article.
Any ideas as in established scholars, not in, who are published in recognized journals.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks so much.
I have one more query. Is it okay enough to ask?
Sure.
I know I'm troubling, but still.
You're not troubling me. Why would you trouble me?
Right. Yeah, this is because I'm a research scholar again on the field of sustainability. So what I have observed is the Brundtland's Commission's report, the definition is being used with reference to the sustainability in almost all the papers. Now, what happens if I have to take that as a definition? Because in the most of the papers it is being quoted, do I refer it as the Brundtland Commission's report's definition, or is it from the perspective of every author has quoted this? So this is an acceptable definition.
No, the primary one. See, every person is relying on one person, right? Or the one particular citation, right? So you also rely on that. See, for instance, example, Foucault. Okay, many people have mentioned Foucault, or many people have conducted studies on Foucault. But if I'm exploring the concept of power, I would rely on Foucault. Why would I rely on some other study that has quoted Foucault? I would take the primary source, right? So I think I would recommend you to go to the primary source and mention the definition that is given in the primary source.
क्या कर रही है?
Okay, all right.
ये क्या कर रही है? ये क्या लिख रही है? यहाँ रख रही है. What do you want to do? क्या करना चाह रही हो?
Sorry?
No, I think that someone else is just being unmuted.
Okay.
बेटे ये वीडियो और ये सब बनाना, this is rubbish.
Pankaj sir, you're unmuted. You're scolding somebody.
Ma'am, sometimes when we work on relatively new ideas, the literature is very important. And I was reading a paper where there were 2 paragraphs and heavily loaded with citations. So is it professional, and is it fine if we in a paragraph the entire paragraph is just a citation of different authors? Is it fine?
By citations, are you meaning the citations in the bracket or the?
Yes, as like in your example, Alexander and Wells, and if I'm continuously quoting and citing the work of people in a paragraph, and it's just citations, because maybe the idea is relatively new and I want something to substantiate my point. So is it fine if we do that?
It depends on the objective that you have. So, for instance, if you're quoting 4 people, okay, in a paragraph, there's a standard size one for one paragraph. Your paragraph can't go for 1 page, right? So, by saying that your paragraph can't go for 1 page long, it also means that there is a certain limit to the number of citations that you give in one paragraph, right? Now, if you're giving 4 or 5 citations, the 4 or 5 citations that you are giving should be related to the topic that you're discussing within that particular paragraph, that particular section. Now, if you're giving like random citations of people who have discussed the topic, but those ideas are not related to the theme that you're discussing in the paragraph, it makes no sense. Got it? So it is okay to give 3 or 4 citations. And even in the example that I gave you, you will notice that in the last section, this author has given an evaluation. She's not just simply citing author and just moving on to the next paragraph. She's also giving an evaluation. And in the evaluation, she has mentioned that in these situations, in all of the examples that she has given, in all of the citations that she had given, she's also evaluating and seeing that she has observed that in these situations, humor, I think, was used in a coping mechanism. That was an evaluation that she made. So by giving 3 citations or 4 citations, at the end, she's not just ending it just like that. She's also giving an evaluation and then moving on to the next topic. So it is very, I think it's unprofessional and it's unaccepted. And it is not good to just simply quote writers and just move on. Because there you're not showing why you're quoting those writers. What is the purpose in citing those writers? There should be a particular objective, right, to cite those writers. So definitely in a paragraph, more than 2 or 3 citations, continuous citations, you can't give, as in the paragraphs, as in full sentences. But in certain articles, the author, she will mention 1 sentence, but in text, like in brackets, they might mention 3 or 4, probably 5 authors who have discussed the same idea. That is okay. But those are citations within brackets. But when you're talking about one particular study and giving an explanation to one particular study, it should be like maximum 3 or 4. I think I'll also, next time, I'll give you an example to show what I'm meaning by within brackets, go 4 or 5, it's fine. But when you're giving a detailed explanation for one study, it is best to stick to 3 or 4 in one paragraph. I hope I answered your question. Are you still confused?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And it was the explanation was very helpful to understand what I read, and now I'm able to relate to what you have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Rizwana, it's already 9:07. So those of you who have questions, you can send it to the organizers or send the questions to my email ID. I will paste my email ID here in the chat box. So you can send your questions to me and I will reply to you within a week because I also have work. But you can send your questions to me. We have exceeded the 2-hour limit.
Yes, can we wind up? Yeah.
Yeah, I've sent my email ID in the chat box. If you're not able to find my email ID in the chat box because as I said, there are so many questions and comments, you can contact the organizers and they will pass on my email ID to you.
Yeah, okay. Let me conclude the session. As we come to the end of this enlightening session, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who contributed to making this webinar a success. A special thanks to our distinguished resource person, Ms. Anuja Jose, for sharing her expertise and insight on academic writing. Thank you, Anuja, and your guidance has been incredibly valuable, and we appreciate the time and effort you have dedicated to this session. And I also extend my sincere thanks to MOM College for their collaboration and for their support and participation. To all the participants, thank you all for your active engagement, questions, and enthusiasm throughout the webinar. I hope you found the session informative and that it has equipped you with the practical knowledge to enhance your academic writing journey. As we have seen today, a single session is just the beginning when it comes to developing advanced writing skills. We are excited to announce that MOMA College and Digiraf Research Academy are jointly organizing a 10-day online advanced program on academic writing. And this comprehensive program will provide in-depth training, practical exercise, and expert insight to further enhance your writing skills. And detailed information about this program will be shared with you soon. Thank you once again for your participation, and we will look forward to seeing you in the advanced program. Have a great day.
Thank you, and hoping to see you all for the workshop.